in what has to be a bitter irony for our special guests tonight, Bill O'Reilly has just begun a promotional tour to hawk his latest book, Kids Are Americans Too. Our third story in the countdown, with the abductor of their son now sentenced this week, the parents of Shawn Hornbeck can finally say that they want Mr. O'Reilly to apologize to their son. Instead, they are getting O'Reilly's self-righteous pronouncement that this kid has been through enough after 4 years of captivity, constant fear and abuse, and therefore he won't mention his name again. Mr. O'Reilly forgetting, or perhaps more accurately wanting others to forget, that when Shawn Hornbeck and his fellow captive Ben Ownby escaped in January, he proceeded to announce to his audience that not only had Shawn not done enough to escape his slavery at the hands of Michael Devlin, but that he liked it.
The situation here for this kid looks to me to be a lot more fun than what he had under his old parents. He didn't have to go to school. He could run around, do whatever he wanted.
Kids like school.
What?
Some kids like school.
Well, I don't believe this kid did. And I think when it all comes down, what's going to happen is there was an element here that this kid liked about his circumstance.
O'Reilly has never acknowledged that he said that, let alone that it required an abject apology to Shawn Hornbeck and abducted and terrified children everywhere and the people who love them. He would not do so even when outraged child advocates and others convinced the Florida chapter of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to cancel his scheduled appearance as keynote speaker at one of their fundraisers. Instead, O'Reilly simply tried to make money off kids with another book, the advertising for which promises the kind of blunt, cogent, common-sense commentary you count on him for, addressing urgent questions like, does a school newspaper have the right to badmouth a principal, and does a mother have the right to eavesdrop on her daughter's telephone conversations? O'Reilly's new book apparently does not address whether some sociopath is entitled to charge $24.95 for a book about kids' rights after insisting that a boy who had to bargain for his life with a madman was having a lot more fun than he did at home. Shawn Hornbeck's parents, Pam and Craig Akers, join us now. My thanks to both of you for some of your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Akers, first of all, how's Shawn doing?
He's doing real well. With the trial being behind him and him knowing that he didn't have to testify and have to face that defendant again, that's put a lot of weight off of his shoulder, and it's doing real well.
Amen to that. Mr. Akers, was he aware of these extraordinary comments from Mr. O'Reilly? Did he know about them?
Initially, he didn't know about them. He knew something that had been said because he overheard us talking about it and knew that we were a little bit upset. It wasn't until recently, within the last week or so, that he heard exactly what had been said.
And sir, what was his reaction when he heard it?
Needless to say, he wasn't really happy. The comment was along the lines of, until he's been there and been through what I've been through, he shouldn't judge other people.
And to that point, to both of you, Mr. and Mrs. Akers, what do you want to say to Bill O'Reilly or anybody else who might have said something like that, who might have believed that either your son didn't try hard enough to get away or in some way enjoyed what he went through? What would you want to say to him or them?
What I would like to say is that they need to hold their opinions until all the facts are out there, or at least enough facts are out there for them to even make an opinion. Because when they say negative things like that about a victim, it just hurts them anymore, and they forget that these kids are the victim, not the adult.
And yeah, Mr. Akers, what happened to our society that we're willing to blame the victim before even any evidence is or enough evidence is in to suggest there's even the slightest chance that a victim is partially microscopically at fault?
That's a really good question. I've been racking my brain over that one for a long time. We just feel it's just so damaging, especially when it's someone in the media. And there's been numerous mentions made in the media by various people. The thing is, when someone in the media says something like that, they have a huge following in a lot of cases, and a lot of times what they say is just taken for the truth and the gospel. So they could have millions of viewers around the world convinced what they're saying, even though it's their opinion, is the truth. And and that's really detrimental to everyone involved. And I think people need to stop and think before they even express an opinion like that, and think about what kind of an impact it could have.
Yeah, some sort of benefit of the doubt would be nice in circumstances like the ones we're talking about here with your son. But let me ask you, both of you, have either of you or has Shawn received any kind of apology from Bill O'Reilly or from anybody else who took this stance?
No, we haven't heard anything, and Pam and I really don't care about apology for us. It's not about us. We could care less one way or the other. It's really Shawn that was hurt, and Shawn is the one that deserves an apology.
One more thing. Monday night of this week on his broadcast, he said, "I'm not going to name the boys because the boys have been through enough." There's been a lot of this tack now that the trial is over, the sentencing is over, not just, and not singling out Bill O'Reilly on here, but even from people who have been much more sympathetic to your son and think that this should all be hidden away now. But am I right, Mrs. Akers, am I right that Shawn doesn't want that you've gotten the Shawn Hornbeck Foundation going and your son wants to help other kids by making sure people remember what happened to him?
Yes, that's correct. The foundation is named after him, and Shawn had expressed an interest to maybe later on be able to talk to other children that might have been in the situation, or to talk to other children on how to keep them out of that situation, or even maybe to give them information on how to get out of that situation if you're in that situation. And he just wants to reach out to all the other victims that may be out there, and when people make negative comments about that just hurts him even more.
You both must be overwhelmed, beyond proud of this boy for wanting to get involved under these circumstances. It is extraordinary, is it not?
Absolutely.
Yes, we are.
We're just thrilled to death that he feels the way that he does. We are so proud of him. He's been so strong, so courageous, so resilient. We couldn't ask for a better son.
Pam and Craig Akers, Shawn Hornbeck's parents, the gentleman we've been talking about, will not apologize. So let me, on behalf of the media, our apologies if anybody else made this worse for you. All the best to you, and to Shawn, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
A quick programming note here. On Monday, I'll be joined by the parents of Graham Frost, the 12-year-old boy who, thanks to his presentation of the Democratic response to the presidential veto of S-CHIP health care, is now being targeted by the right wing. That's Monday on Countdown, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Fittingly, worst persons. It's bad enough to be Coultergeist, but to then go on national TV after she said what she did about perfecting Jews and actually claim she's not an anti-Semite? And a serious and sobering development in the death of Anna Nicole Smith. Search warrants in California. Next on Countdown.